So many people don't even know His Imperial Majesty spoke on such things. To show you that if His Imperial Majesty's teaching was taught, you understand, I think the world would be much different than it is today. Definitely. Well, we know one thing: His Imperial Majesty's teaching have not been circulated, distributed, disseminated as much as it should be, both among the Rastafari as well as among everyone else in the world. You understand, all the friends that have turned out to be hypocrites, you understand, against His Imperial Majesty and against those holy, blameless Ethiopians. It's interesting because in the 1941, May 5th, 1941, because most people know that His Imperial Majesty went into exile. What they don't know is they returned 5 years to the very day that he left, May 5th, 1941. Now, some would try to naysay, you understand, and trivialize and say, well, the English were the ones who fought, and it was the English who did it. Well, you know, if Satan be divided against Satan, then his kingdom fall. You see what I'm saying? So another example of His Imperial Majesty walking out, you understand, the way of Christ in the fullness of it. You understand, not these little sound bites that your preachers get you caught up on. But on May 5th, 1941 was what is called the New Day, a New Day speech of His Imperial Majesty. And it's very interesting, but I want to touch on this from the outset, and then we could go through the whole speech and discuss it, and maybe even take some of your questions later on about this. His Imperial Majesty says, in the new Ethiopia, I want you to be a people undivided and endowed with freedom and equality before the law. This is why it's called a New Day speech. Now, near the last paragraph of this speech, His Imperial Majesty says, take care not to spoil the good name of Ethiopia. And we must take care not to spoil the good name of Ethiopia by acts which are worthy of the enemy. Now he's speaking to holy Ethiopia, not today's Ethiopia. Today's Ethiopia can learn something from holy Ethiopia, but I have to make that note right there, that Ethiopia under the King of Kings, therefore under God, you understand, God and under God, nation under God, God and country. You understand? Take care not to spoil the good name of Ethiopia by acts which are worthy of the enemy. We shall see that our enemies are disarmed and sent the same way they came. As Saint George, who killed the dragon, is the patron saint of our army as well as our allies, let us unite with our allies in everlasting friendship and amity in order to be able to stand against the godless and cruel dragon which has newly risen and which is oppressing mankind. I charge you to consider them, our allies, as a brother and a friend, and to show them kindness and consideration. And this is the close of the New Day, May 5th, 1941, or what some may call the Independence Day speech of His Imperial Majesty. Now, what's interesting about this is we have to ask a couple of questions. Who is this godless and cruel dragon that His Imperial Majesty identifies? You see, there's silence, because who is this godless and cruel dragon that somehow in 1941 His Imperial Majesty was already knowledgeable about what a lot of us have recently come to discover through the internet and through like videos and DVDs and other things, you know, documentaries and everything. We learn about the Freemasons, we learn about the Illuminati, we learn about the Kabbalah and the so-called crypto Jews and this whole conspiracy, you understand, that's going on. Not a theory, you understand, it's a reality that's going on. But this conspiracy obviously was known to His Imperial Majesty since 1941. Because once again he says, as Saint George Caduce Georgis, as the husbandman who killed the dragon, is the patron saint of our army as well as our allies. Let us unite with our allies in eternal or everlasting friendship and amity. Ethiopia did that. It's England and the Queen of England that betrayed His Imperial Majesty and that betrayed Ethiopia. You understand? It's ironic that most Ethiopian, well, they're intellectuals, so that kind of explains why a lot of them don't get it, because their attitudes and values, you understand, have not changed. But he said, in order to be able to stand against the godless and cruel dragon, which has newly, so around 1941, we can say that this godless and cruel dragon had newly risen, you understand, and which is oppressing mankind. So even though that beast was slain, you understand, received the deadly wound that Revelation talks about, you understand, but all began to wonder after the beast because the deadly wound appeared to be healed. So prophecy, people want to, you know, they've been asking about His Imperial Majesty in the Bible and in prophecy, so forth and so on. This is a very apropos prophecy. If you notice something, a lot of the conspiracy theorists and the videos and everything always ignore Ethiopia. They always ignore Holy Ethiopia. They always ignore the Holy King of Kings. Yet, when you look at the history from a non-biased, you understand, approach, you'll recognize that Ethiopia played a more important role, you understand, in the biblical fulfillment of prophecy. You understand? And a lot of these conspiracy theorists that try to give us, you know, well, the New World Order, and it began around the 1940s, and World War I and World War II was all a part of this, and the Jews were involved in such and such. They never point out the Lion of the tribe of Judah. You understand? Is it because he's black? You understand? I mean, is it because the King of Kings happens to be black, a black Ethiopian, a reddish brown skinned Ethiopian, that they don't point this out? I mean, they leave out the fact that fascist Italy invaded Ethiopia. You understand, that the appeal, you understand, to the conscience of the world of His Imperial Majesty was totally denied. You understand? They turned their backs on Ethiopia. They appeased Nazi Germany and Hitler. You understand? And then the war blew up. You understand? And England almost was taken by the Nazis. You understand? And to save England, they finally, you understand, remembered the King of Kings, and they finally remembered the assistance which they pledged and they promised, you understand, as a covenant and as an oath before God and man to fulfill. So this is very interesting right here. I always found this to be really most interesting, and I've heard very few speak out on it or even discuss it or bring it up as a subject matter, that the godless and cruel dragon, which had newly risen and even at that time was already oppressing humanity. Who is this godless dragon? You understand? And how do we identify this with the historical events of the 1930s and the 1940s? And what role does Ethiopia, you understand, really play in that, and played in that, as well as the lost sheep of the house of Israel, those of us in the Americas and the Caribbean? It's very important. You understand? And what damage did false prophets like Garvey and others do against that fulfillment of prophecy? Well, they fulfilled prophecy in a sense, but what damage they do to black peoples, you understand, and other peoples around the world, because of the lies and slanders against the only potentate, you understand, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I, elect of God, King of Kings of Ethiopia. You have to ask yourself that, because it's a very legitimate question. Is it because His Imperial Majesty is black? They avoid His Imperial Majesty in all their World War II, Illuminati, conspiracy theories, you know, like all these documentaries that we see. You understand? Talking about the fascists. And you notice, because Mussolini is the one who invaded Ethiopia, if you notice, they don't really focus on Mussolini so much in a lot of the documentaries about the war and Nazism and fascism. They'll touch on him, the American media especially. The European documentaries are a little different, we must admit. And the European documentaries, many of them go in a little more detail. But in a lot of the American documentaries, the point is avoided. His Imperial Majesty is avoided. And there's definitely the stench, the awful stench of racism. And what is the effect now You understand? On those people of the world that are trying to oppose this godless and cruel dragon who's oppressing humanity right now.